Where do you live in Canada?
I live in Ottawa, Ontario, the capital city.
Okay, there you go.
I live above you. I'm going to fly
Yeah,
tomorrow to Washington, D.C. in about 40 minutes.
that's not bad.
No, it's nothing. And then driving wise, I live 3 hours due north of Syracuse, New York,
Okay,
which is where Canadians will go catch one of the places the Canadians will go catch big Canadian bands. So,
interesting.
yeah, so I've seen this band that I love, and my hero there's right above my head. Whoopsie. Gord Downey from the
Yeah,
Tragically
yeah,
Hip with
yeah,
the Jaws
yeah,
t shirt.
yeah.
So I caught the hip like, a huge show in Toronto, 30,000 Canadians, 30,000 tickets sold in 15 minutes, right? 5 minutes.
Right.
Then the
But
next,
in the U.S., they were never that big of a deal, so you could come see them here easily.
you could go see them in like, they do a tour across the United States and they play everything that you needed to play. They'd play the Troubadour, they'd play the 930 Club in DC, the
Yeah,
Beacon
that's a
Theater,
great spot, by the way. Well, you know that.
the 930 Club. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I, I caught the hip there.
I grew up in DC, and I remember when the 930 Club was brand spanking new.
When I caught the hip at the 930 Club, I left a client dinner. I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to meet me later and I'm going to show you. Imagine if I told you this band's called the Rolling Stones and they're playing at the end of the street. You'd be sorry if you missed them. So anyhow,
For sure.
when I climb out of the car, the guy goes, what the hell are you doing here? And I said, I'm going to see this band. And he goes, okay, buddy, listen to me. This was before the Uber days. So he's like, look, when the show
Right.
is over, you call a cab, whatever, you walk out, you get in this cab and you go to your hotel.
Right. Wasn't a very good part of town.
You're
going to
die here, he said to me. I was like, no, the hip will keep me safe.
Yeah. This, I don't think it's very well known, but there's a pretty good music scene in DC.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we used to go to a place on K Street. Well, it was the Bayou, and I mean, I can't count the number of bands I saw in there. We saw Kiss in there. We saw Judas Priest in there. We saw Joan Jett in there.
Hey, look at you.
We saw Foreigner in there. And then I think it was the night I saw Foreigner. That was the night that Neil Young was playing across the street at the cellar door. And I was which is like a 200 seat venue. That's a famous concert.
Holy cow.
And I didn't even recognize me. I didn't know enough at that point in time to know that I should really go see Neil Young instead.
It's live music. So I don't know if you're aware, and I know we'll get into our interview, but Gordy was my hero.
I know. I'm
and
aware.
The hip are my hero. And I built this business thinking about the hip. You have no idea how much of what I pulled off because of them. Like when I joined this is all about Gordy died and so did music for me for a long time. I didn't even touch my guitar for I didn't listen to music. I didn't sing a song. I didn't play guitar. Music was over because Gordy died. And I just couldn't imagine that. No kidding. Never felt that way about anybody I don't love. And when I met his older brother, I told him so. But things I picked up from the hip was equality and fairness, okay? And Gordy reportedly, they talk about it in interviews with him sitting there. So the band says, no. Everything by the hip was equal. Songs and music by the Tragically Hip. There was no writer credit. There was no producer credit. We all split everything evenly. Number of years ago, 10, 12 more years ago than that, I pried Tom Frisbee loose to become my partner. Come and join me. I'm doing all this great stuff and I can't do that. And I have all kinds of people that want it and you're the right guy to come and do it. And as you know, normally when you do that, Dennis would, the original Dennis would maintain 51%. You get 49% and there you go. No,
right. Yeah.
No, the hip, man, I refused. No, I will not own you. I said, it has to be 50-50. It has to be. So before Tom became my partner, we were working with this sort of consultant who we'd work all day doing good work. And then in the evening, I think it was from 5 till 7, we'd have these conference calls. It was before Zoom, where we would discuss how we would, solve arguments we never had. So we
Yeah, I was
do.
going to
Like this,
say it would make for an interesting operating agreement.
it's phenomenal. And it's very, very simple, in fact. And I've told Tom this every time since he's been here. I go, no, it's equal. That means if I write a bestseller and somebody says, no, we want to pay you $100,000 for you to come and talk, how much of that is
Right.
yours? And before you
50.
can answer, I go, 50. You see how that
Right.
works? We're partners.
Yeah.
And another thing the HIP did, Mark, when they put Paul Langlois in the band, God bless him, he, by his own admission, was still looking at his fingers on the fretboard. Okay. And Robert Baker in the band said, well, you can teach anybody how to play guitar, but you can't teach somebody to be easy to hang out with. And I've taken that a little, tweaked it a little, which is, my father used to say they teach doctors with books, right? Here, read this, that it's that you can't teach people to care.
No,
You teach them to do anything, but you
That's
can't
a very good
teach
point.
a person how to care. If a person cares, hire them.
That's a very good point. So it's interesting. We kind of actually got into the first question I was going to ask you already, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Sure.
I mean, my not so humble opinion is that, and I've never worked with you, you've never worked with our firm, is that you're kind of a marketing and service and value visionary. That's my not so humble opinion. And I think you just described how you arrived at this point, but is there something you want to add to how you actually arrived at this point?
Where am I exactly? At this?
Well, I mean, you're a video producing, interesting person to listen to and talk to. And here's my answer to that. And then I'll let you go.
Sure.
I would tell advisors listening in that if you're not watching Dennis's videos and reading Tom's blogs, you should. You'll learn something, probably. If you don't, you must be a really amazing advisor. And if you're a client or a prospective client, when you find an advisor that does the things that Dennis talks about, you found yourself a good advisor. That's what I think.
Oh, that's what I think too.
Can you tell me where you are?
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I guess I'll make it really brief and painless for everybody listening. Oh no, an origin story. Oh God, from a guy from Canada. Oh, he's getting worse. I got a lucky break and was asked to go work as a sales trainer in the financial services industry 28 years ago. And I got hired by Duncan McPherson, who is, was a mentor of mine. And to a certain extent, I still follow a lot of things that he taught me. And which I'll get into, which has to do with marketing and broadcasting and making a lot of noise and mistaking that action for achievement. I just borrowed right from Hemingway at like 11 a.m. Terrible. I'm already going there. So it's like day 3 on the job, and I realize respectfully that these advisors are fantastic people. They have a lot of technical knowledge. But in my opinion, and sometimes it takes a person from the outside just to come in and see this, I came in and thought, you're all making a really big assumption. And that big assumption is that people think about their money and you way more often than they actually do. At the time here in Ottawa, Mark, what was going on was this huge tech bubble was just inflating. It's a nerdy little government town I live in. And all of a sudden, everybody that didn't work for the government worked for a high-tech company, and all your friends were getting loaded. Okay, that's what was going on. It was very strange times around Ottawa. Like it earned the reputation that it had, okay? And at the time, we had this CEO here. He was pretty well known, Yusuf Strumpel. And he was the CEO of JDS Fitel that became JDS Uniphase.
Okay.
Lots of millionaires here in town.
That was a pretty big pop in the tech bubble.
Huge. And for us, it was like, we're not just a gray flannel pants, white shirt, sensible shoes town. Look at this. We got something going on here. And I would use him as an example to these advisors. And I I would say, he drives through the neighborhood and everybody makes these assumptions. They go, that's him, that's the guy, that's with the beret, he's a billionaire now. People are crazy about it. But he's not thinking about that. He's thinking about the same thing every other dad thinks about when they go to work, which is, did he or did he not? Is he feeling connected to his kid or not? And if today he isn't, all the $1 billion in the world doesn't matter. He's frustrated. He just wants to get home and make that right. Okay? And I suspected that, I went to school for anthropology. Culture eats strategy. Early in my career, I'd use that as a punchline in my keynotes. Oh, by the way, I went to school for anthropology. Thanks for having me down. And everybody would laugh, not realizing I had the most advantage of anybody in the room. Everybody else sees a market. I'm speaking to a room of 300 financial advisors. It's a market of financial advisors that need my services. Oh, I'm getting paid to advertise to them. Or if you're an advisor presenting at a meeting, you're asked to come in. Oh, I've got a room full of potential, people 5 years from retirement who have investable assets of X, and they all have these needs. It's a market. I never believed that. What I believed was, no, if there's 400 people in the room, there's 400 markets of one. And they're not investors, they're people. And what they need is financial security. That's not what they're going to party over, though. They're not going to get all excited about having that done. What they want is fulfillment. So this is all back to anthropology and people. As a people change, their culture changes, so do their needs and wants as clients in everything. Our needs and wants change, which what we never would have dreamed of before no longer even satisfies us now. So this was all this, I like to think I started this conversation. It's like, no. Get out of the most important, the most important feature of a financial plan is that once you have one, you can talk about stuff that's actually important. Like, who do you want to be when you grow up? And who do you want to be today?
Couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah.
That's what it really enables, right? Is once you stop worrying about the money, because obviously we know from behavioral psychology and behavioral finance that money is a big worry for a lot of people. And once you stop worrying about the money, you can get to who you really are.
I read amen. I read this sad thing the other day. I'm going to hit everybody with this one, but I read it. Somebody I don't know. But if you look in my LinkedIn stuff, you'll see I leave little messages for people I don't know. Say, when they choose to share something painful, I'll write something like, hey, Mark, I've read every word. I just want that person to know I'm reading about your pain. So the other day, some poor fella posted a photo. He let everybody know that his wife is not well at all. And he posted a screenshot of an x-ray to show that her cancer had returned and was in her spine. It's devastating. It's devastating.
That's a bad call right there. Yeah.
It's hard to talk about it at this moment because I'm so in love with being alive and my family. But he wrote something and it's like, oh. And he said, it was so beautiful. He said, just the other day, what seemed so important was, all these vanity metrics, clicks and likes and requests and nonsense. But today, what seems critical is making sure we hold hands in the car. And that hit me heavy. It just all these things we take for granted, So I see this, so what I've been advocating for, and that's the word, since I started, and I mean, this just took off, this thing, like, it's like a movie. I went to 3 meetings and then I signed a contract for to speak 50 times for Franklin Templeton Investments. This was like in 1995. So the little funny part of my life is I live here in Canada. It's fantastic. I've worked in 28 years. I probably worked there's no way I've worked 15 times in Canada. And like one of them was just the other day. I have an agent in Toronto who can get me all kinds of gigs in the United States. Hey, you want to go to Lisbon and speak to an elevator company? Sure. But I couldn't get a gig speaking to the bank that holds my mortgage in my own town.
That's funny,
Oh
actually.
yeah, they don't know who I am up here. But what I have been advocating for since I started is that advisors have to become more than advisors. That they're commoditized. They're paying you 1%. When I started, that didn't exist. I paid early in my career to go to a big seminar conference in Toronto on fee-based investing. Everybody I spoke to was a commission-based person. So I see the realities of business coming, which is you're going to be crushed by commoditization. And there's two ways to solve this problem: more or different. When you deliver services, you opt for more. It's the wrong move. Well, let's have even more products, even more benefits, even less, even more efficiency. Let's make sure Mark can wake up to pee at 3 a.m. and look at his portfolio because he'll want that's value. None of that is value. Or there's different, an expression that causes my eye to twitch a little bit: game changer. Sometimes
I would imagine differentiation would cause your eye to twitch a little bit
it
too.
does project well. So does marketing as a term. Oh God, I got all kinds of things to bug me. Maybe I'm a terrible guest. We like to have Dennis on to talk about the things he disagrees with and hates. So what I was advocating for all this time, and I continue to, is to say you need to evolve with the economy. We've gone from the agrarian economy to the industrial economy, the service economy, the experience economy, and now we're going someplace else. I've been saying it since day one, and it's emerging. It's the transformation economy. And these aren't just bumper stickers. It means every time the economy changes, it means the predominant economic offering has changed. What we want and where clients measure value. So what
I would actually argue that some of the disruption that's occurring in the United States is because of that.
interesting.
There are fundamental economic changes that some people are leaving some people behind,
Yeah,
and it bothers them, right?
absolutely. And okay, so yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think the solution is the same. It's like, okay, well then do different. So
Well, that's where I was going to go next. Actually, one thing that I saw you say is the only way forward is to matter more
yeah,
today and in the future. So,
yeah.
how do we matter more, Dennis?
Well, I think it's to accept that you're not selling a product or a solution. You're creating a reason for people to belong. Okay. So I would turn that around and say, if you want to matter more, my question is, well, what movement are you leading? When we look at the most successful brands in the world, what do they have in common? And what they have in common, Mark, is people talk about them. Like people talk about them. That's what they have in common. It doesn't matter what the hell it is. Come to Ottawa and visit me. You like live music? We have a huge music festival here every summer. Come on up and I'll take you to a place called Chesterfields. It's the place in my neighborhood that people have breakfast and there's a lineup outside when it's 25 below 0 Celsius. In my neighborhood, people talk about it. It can be local, regional, national, or international. Big brands that everybody loves, underline that, they get talked about. So that's what you have to do to matter more. Nobody talks about facts. They talk about feelings, they talk about emotions, and they talk about transformation. I write this all the time. As an advisor, you have to make your clients say this. Wow, I never thought about that before. Okay.
Yeah, well, you just kind of summarized the recent U.S. election right there, right?
Yeah.
No facts, emotions, feelings, transformation.
Okay, so here it goes. Dare I? So last May, I was up at my cabin, and I've been doing some. It's related to this answer, and I'll finish and I'll tell you, and I'm going to comment on what you just said. So it occurred to me, yeah, really big brands, man. That's what they have in common. It starts with number one, people talk about them. So that starts with, for all the advisors listening, It's like, okay, so if you want people to talk about you, step one is to do work that's worth talking about. Okay? Don't kid yourself. Don't just be a financial advisor and wonder where the parade is. That's nobody. Hey, when I show up and deliver a keynote and everybody goes, oh my God, I don't throw a parade. That's what I got paid to do. That's why they pay me. Because my hit rate is 97%, meaning very rarely am I going to go in and say, what the hell is that? Every time, man, I go in and I destroy that. So you got to do a really, really amazing work. Okay, so it starts there. And then the next thing I realized is these great big brands don't have CEOs. They have leaders.
Mm.
They
evangelists in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah,
It's more like an
then we'll
evangelist.
go to number 3, about a great big idea.
Yeah.
So this is for everybody listening. Is your great big idea that people are going to run out of, if they run out of money, they're going to have an uncomfortable retirement? That's not a big idea. That's not a big idea. And let me help you come up with your big idea, people out in the blogosphere or in the pod universe or wherever we all are. Here's the sentence. You ready? All financial advisors believe blank. I think they're crazy. I believe blank, blank, and blank. They think I'm crazy. Start there. Okay. And the question that should be, okay, so we've got, everybody talks about you, charismatic leader, big idea. What's your big idea? I'm not going to get into it. My big idea is you're dead already. So what's that? Everybody listening. So what's the big idea that your clients whisper to each other when they talk about you to their friends? Serious shift. What is that? What's the big idea? And then this is the last piece, and I want to go to what you just said about the election. When you get out of the ridiculousness of selling goods and services and marketing, push, 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 and you instead become some like the other thing big brands have, they don't push. People want them.
Right. It's pulled.
They pull. It's all pull.
Yeah, I'm 100%, right?
I have done everything.
You should be pulled to us as a business.
Precisely. And the irony is you accomplish that by making them look for you. Like even listening today, Dennis, how can we make it really easy for somebody who goes, oh my God, this guy's amazing, to find you? Don't.
Right.
I learned this. I got to finish that first point, and then I'm going to write this down. I'm going to tell you about Bill Murray and Scott Raab. I learned a lot from these two guys, the actor and the writer. The next piece for being more relevant, mattering more, is when you start staging experiences and guiding transformations, you have to accept you're going to alienate the majority of what you perceive to be the market. I want to work with small business owners that want to take even more time off. Well, that's some of us, but not most of us. And that can be really, really, uncomfortable. So you have to not only identify, this is the key, you have to not only identify an ideal client, you have to identify an enemy. Who do you hate? Who don't you want to have as a client? Who doesn't deserve your work? Who don't you want to have in your office? So I'll give everybody an easy answer to that. And the answer is people who are complacent, people who are cynical, people who are depressed, people who are, no, I want people here to live, okay? So I'm sitting in my cottage. I'm in a beautiful state of flow. And I start thinking about how important it would also be to identify as many enemies as possible. And then I had this thought, which was, this was May. I thought, Mr. Trump's going to win again. Up until that point, I didn't think so. But in May, I decided, no, I think he will. And here's why. He's a charismatic leader. Whether you tune into that frequency or not, he's a charismatic leader.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's the fact of it.
He has a big idea.
Yep.
Big idea is make America great again. This isn't an attack on anybody who's listening saying, hey, you're picking on me. No, I'm not. We're just having an academic discussion, I promise you. I understand where you're coming from even. I get it. I'm on. Let's all just start talking and giving each other the benefit of the doubt, for goodness sakes. I'm not attacking anybody and I don't want to be attacked. I just want us all to get along. He's got a great big idea called Make America Great Again, and it's sufficiently vague. It can mean anything to anybody. Make America Great Again. Yeah, build more roads. Make America Great Again. Yeah, deregulate. Make America Great Again can mean anything to anybody.
Right.
And then you go to number three.
A number of things. Yeah.
We can all learn from this. It's not about the ideal voter. It's about all the enemies identified. Mm-hmm. When you have all of those enemies, that's what we really grab onto. Yeah, Mark.
And he does that every single day. He identifies an enemy of one sort every single day.
And what it allows a person to do is, I'll use the example of an environment. Well, I'm actually an environmentalist, and I know he's not, and he wants to do all these things that actually I don't agree with. But I'm not going to abandon this person, this idea, because we have enough other things in common that we don't like. So let's quickly get out of that before that gets us both in trouble and get back to, so what does that mean if you're an advisor and you're sitting in front of Dennis and Sherry?
Yeah.
Means more so than telling me my ideal client are, married couples or people in long-term committed relationships. They have children or they want to. They often own businesses, education, legacy, etc. It's all very important to my clients. So is my process. They attend my meetings. They ask questions. That's all great. Tell me who you hate. Learn from these big brands. Mark, Jess, let me tell you who makes me scratch my head. I'm going to make you a fictitious couple here. It's when I meet people like you that come in, candidly, and you've done everything right. Raise a lovely family, you get along. It's clear to me you're not just a couple, you're friends, and you have children, and your happiness, and you matter to your community, and you have funds. But I meet people and then they live the most boring lives I can imagine. Those are the people I go home and I scratch my head and I have to talk to my wife about it. I don't get that. Give people those things and they'll move in. Now, can I talk about Bill Murray and Scott Raab?
You can.
All right.
And then we'll close with that.
All right, here it is. So when you started, you paid me some lovely compliments and thank you. And you said, I kind of think of you as like a marketing da-da-da guy. Okay. So I think marketing as we've known it is over. And I think every single person, advisor specifically, but it applies to every business in the world that's listening right now, should stop marketing right now. Nobody's reading your stuff. You're wasting your time and your money. Just stop. Instead, turn your marketing person into something else. Call them your director of community love. That's what Susan Rothery's title is in my office. And have that person stop talking to strangers. They don't want to hear from you. Instead, have them study your existing clients and know every single thing that is going on in their life. You should have a meeting once a week where someone comes into your office, like that MASH show, of course, that I love so much, with Radar O'Reilly coming in to see Colonel Blake. He'd always have all these things he'd have to say. What am I signing, Radar? You should almost have the same meeting every week where one person updates the entire team on every single event going on in their clients' lives. Goes right back to Yusuf Strumpel driving to work. He's got $1 billion. No, he doesn't. He has some on his mind. He had an argument with his kid today.
Hey, my daughter got a kid who got tossed out of English class in high school today.
That's it. I have a daughter that got accepted to the commercial pilot program at Algonquin College last week. We put it on Facebook. We put it on Instagram. We put it on LinkedIn. If you want your clients to talk about, you give them something. Now, this is what I learned from Bill Murray and Scott Raab. Scott Raab wrote for Esquire magazine for 20 years. He interviews Bill Murray. Bill Murray doesn't have a publicist, doesn't have an agent. David Granger at the time is the editor for Esquire magazine. He's talking to Bill Murray in the back seat. Scott Raab's driving the car. And David Granger's talking to him about how hard it was for Sofia Coppola to get in touch with him to put him in the movie Lost in Translation. You remember that movie? And the significance of that movie for Bill Murray? For anybody who might not know, after that movie, Jesus Christ, he was an actor and not just a guy from
Saturday. He was a funny guy always and a little zany on the golf course, but after that he was an international superstar.
And a thespian. The poor man believes he's a thespian. Yeah. And they thought he was an actor. Like, oh my God, it changed his career. So he
Right.
keeps saying, yeah, yeah. And David, he goes, yeah, that's right. And David Granger's pushing him. And he goes, but like, she almost gave up on finding you. And the way they did, Scott Rabb writes the article, you can sort of see Bill's head's on a swivel as he's driving through the city, looking all over, seemingly not paying. He keeps giving the same answer. Yeah, but she found me. But she almost didn't, and your whole life would have changed, and you never would have got the movie, and none of this would have happened. So finally, Bill goes, Scotty, to Scott Rabb, if you didn't have my number and you wanted to interview me, what would you do? And Scott Rabb says, I'd call Dan Aykroyd. And Bill Murray goes, there you go. Danny's got my number. And he said something about like, no, you make them find you. So help me God, Mark, I have the same box. That's got to be 20 years old, that story. I've never handed out a business card. Nothing since then. And I've never wanted for work. I do wicked work. I matter as much as wicked work. Listen to me. I do work that is generous and surprising. I have a very specific niche market. I don't care about anybody that isn't my client. These videos that you mentioned, I shoot 2 weeks of videos in 25 minutes and I never think about it again. If everybody out there knew what I do every day with 80% of my time to generate $1 million, and I do it in 9 months, I take the summer off and a month off at Christmas. This year I started with a ski trip, 2025. If you knew what I did all day long, it would make no sense to you. You do like 3 things? Yeah, every single day with 80% of my time. And every time I'm talking to somebody I don't know, I'm thinking, good God, why am I doing this? It better be worth it. Literally, because otherwise I could be doing amazing things for John Forbes right now, for Aaron Furtado right now. These are all the people that I've already touched today. And I would tell everybody that. Stop marketing. Stop it. If I didn't have a single client and I wanted Mark Newfield as my client, I'd use LinkedIn, I'd study you, and I'd reach out to one person. I might call a wrecker yard, a car wrecker yard. Maybe buy the cheapest old car door I can. You know, can I get one for $250? I'd have it buffed and mounted on a metal frame and delivered to your office with a note. It says, I want to blow your doors off. This is what I do. I work with a very specific person. This is the problem I help them solve. Nobody needs to hear from a financial advisor. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. So
That is a fact. That is a fact. And the
be a charismatic
100%.
leader.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of sort of what I think about these days for our firm. It's, what is that?
Yeah.
Because we have a very well functioning business. The question is, how do we literally attract the right clients?
Yeah.
So I'm with you 100%.
And you got to know the person. I picked car door because of what's on your walls and on your shelf.
I've obviously I did understand that. That was really impressive, actually. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, man.
We limit the duration just so that we don't put people to sleep,
Sure.
although you wouldn't put people to sleep. What I do want to do is have you come back when Jess is present and delve into this a little bit more if you're willing to give us
100%.
Another 25 minutes on another day.
Could we not just turn Jess into the case study?
Of course we could.
Right?
We could
She has subsumed financial planning, everybody needs to pay their bills, up into a way bigger idea.
That's true.
Well-being, fitness, being strong. And that's just the thin end of the wedge.
That's a very good point. So we'll come back and have that conversation.
Cool.
Dennis, thank you very much. I'm either going to get to Ontario or we're going to drag you here.
Well, I'll definitely be seeing you there soon because I do a lot of speaking work in Richmond, but I would encourage you and anyone listening, come and visit us. And if you make me a stop, Ottawa, I will plan something cool for you.
Oh, do that, sir. You have a fabulous day. Thank you.